Hello, fellow humans! I feel like one of my comments got ignored, so I'm gonna do a debunk. Because, screw 'em.
Okay, I just want to point out this is not a hit piece against these individuals who might be actually very nice people. I'm just having a little fun with this. If I'm being a little toxic, it's because a lot of people with this mentality want to teach creationism, which is more theology, in a science class, which I feel is highly inappropriate. But I want to point out this is not against Christianity. These might be very nice people. They might be one of the people to pull over and ask if you need help if you're stranded on the side of the road. This is also to sometimes to learn you kind of got to screw up. When you learn how to ride a bicycle, you're gonna fall over a few times. You take that thought process, you learn, you build, and same thing with this. Sometimes you just gotta just like looking up how someone's wrong. Can learn about other things.
That's why. But for a little context, I would be definitely giving a part of the short. I really want to avoid breaking the cop out rules because reasons. Keep in mind, is Genesis History is a pseudoscientific group. They're trying to push creationism. I'm gonna be bounced a little bit for this. I'm doing my best to not take things out of context, just because it just feels wrong. For the next video, I'm thinking of debunking Sabur Ahmad because he looks like the fun one, the angry type. That one I'll be doing like a single video that he uploaded to the Tube of Views. If you know any scientific groups, people, whatever, let me know through a comment or hop on Discord. I got the link to my Discord to the in the below in the comments. 50 likes and also upload this definitely slightly edited to a certain adult hub website. Okay, enough of the introduction.
Boy, the captain's gonna earn his paycheck today. Let's go!
Yeah, the conventional wisdom is that there are multiple ice advances. In our model, there's good reason to believe there's only one ice motion.
Oh, you have a model.
Who's the widow baby? Oh, who's the widow baby? Who's the widow baby? Yes, he is, widow little baby.
In full seriousness, having models is great for science. You can predict things. They serve a lot of purposes. However, they not necessarily they could be wrong because they're not including certain pieces of information they may not know that they need, or I'm pretty sure in their case, they're deliberately ignoring certain things that they don't want. Uh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. What was the question?
Well, Kurt, the conventional paradigm would tell us that we have a lot of ice ages, and looking at ice cores tells us that, oh, we've got all of these layers. That means we've got many, many thousands of years from those ice cores. What's your perspective on that?
Editor here. If it's not clear, I'm mocking him.
All right, the good news is one of the crew actually stated something about core drilling.
We would basically say there was only one ice age following the Genesis flood, not multiple ice ages or up to 60 different ice ages. These are derived primarily from seafloor sediment data. Ice cores don't show that many.
All right, I'm going to explain this nerd stuff to everyone. I'm going to explain what the professional nerds are looking at these cores, which basically include ice cores and oceanic cores. So here you have the basic model of an atom. You have electron clouds surrounding the center, known as the nucleus. Right? Basic stuff. I'm starting with the very, very basic stuff here. In the nucleus, you have protons with positive charges and neutrons with no charges. The element that I brought up is krypton. It's a noble gas with 36 protons. The protons determine what what element you're looking at. And when I say krypton, it's krypton as in the gas, not kryptonite, which is fictional. So being a noble gas means it doesn't want to interact with other elements to form a molecule. The electron orbitals are full. In other elements, orbitals want more electrons. They want to fill those orbitals. That's how you get molecules like carbon dioxide, stuff like that. Easy, easy. Oh, this level is easy. Chemistry still scares me after taking a few chemistry classes. But the different amount of neutrons are the different type isotopes of that element. And some are more stable than others. This chart linked below is super cool. Love it. I wish I've discovered it earlier.
Stable! Stable! Like carbon, not stable. Well, that definitely not stable. Stable? Stable? No, not stable. Not stable. It probably lasts longer than he does, catch my... Anyways. Stable? Not very stable. No. No! Yeah, those don't exist. They probably do, but... 13 milliseconds.
It lets you know which isotopes basically do not break down, which is the stable ones, and how long the other ones last, which is important for radiometric dating. In this chart, the number of protons is the y-axis, and the number of neutrons is the x-axis. Okay. This is the part where creationists are either blatantly lie, or just simply not aware about. There is a range of where particular radiometric dating is accurate, and it depends upon what you're looking at. For example, the ice cores I brought up use krypton dating, which is accurate about 50,000 to 1.5 million years. This is pretty much based off of the half-life. If you use it to find out how old something is from, let's say, the Great Depression of the 1930s is, your results are going to be way off. Do not use krypton for that. Little fun fact before I move on. If you try to radiometrically date something that is wooden, your results may be inaccurate too. The inner parts of trees, those are dead. Basically, like when you have wood, it's probably dead. So the results will be off depending upon how old that tree is and which, like how far inside the trunk you made that wooden thingy. And another reason why krypton is used, basically a reason why krypton is used is, again, it's a noble gas, so it does not like to form chemical compounds. When you have ice, ice tends to capture air bubbles. That's what they were looking at. That's how they know how old the ice is. Now we have stable isotopes. Stable isotopes are not used for radiometric dating. They're used for other things because different isotopes behave a little bit differently, like the mobility changes. And what we're looking at is ratios of different isotopes, right? So, example, if you take the water from lakes, you take the water from the oceans, just the water, nothing else, the H2O. The water from lakes is actually lighter than it is in the ocean because they have lighter isotopes. It's not by much. The difference is per thousand atoms, still plenty measurable. And the Arctic Ocean bedrock has a lot of diatom fossils. Just for a little distraction, these are diatoms. Look how pretty they are. They're microscopic. They're really phytoplankton. Anyways, their cell walls are made of silicon, which is similar to carbon. It's right below the same column. They have the same number of valence electrons, but silicon does not exactly behave the same way as carbon. because it's physically a larger molecule, and that affects the subatomic properties. But these fossils have variations of concentrations of silicon-30, right? Glaciers that contain silicon will generally have less of silicon-30. The majority of silicon is silicon-29. Oceanic cores are really best for this because of the lack of the destruction. Land stuff deals with things like erosion, more so than underwater. If you have a large amount of glaciers, they'll actually affect the stable isotope ratios in the diatom fossils. So when the land is covered of ice, it's almost like there's like and it's measurable, not just like, hey, it's winter. It's definitely noticeable in the diatom fossils. It's almost like there are ages full of ice when the land was covered in ice, like glaciers, enough to actually make a measurable difference in the diatoms, their isotope.
But they interpret the wiggles in the temperature estimates from the seafloor sediment to get these many ice ages. But even those have major problems because the seafloor sediment that is looked at is on the order of 20, 30 meters or 60 to 100 feet of sediment. And you're trying to interpret multiple ice ages that occurred over millions of years from layers that are on the order of less than a millimeter thick.
Okay, that's just the argument of incredulity. But let's be honest here, what is so interested in thickness? I'm just asking questions.
Extra thick!
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
But yes, these layers can be thin, but they're not outliers. They're consistent. There are more than just one spot, so you're not looking at one weird thing that's going on. And it happens multiple times. So you ignoring that fact, especially for your models, that's a bit fraudulent.
I am shocked! Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
All right. I'm going to look at all the crap they put out. No, I'm not buying their movie. Again, I'm just looking at the shorts. And basically, what looks like fun and it satisfies my lack of attention span. And I can guarantee you, this gets so much dumber. I promise you. And I'm not going to do this next part sober.
You put the beer in the coconut and drink it all up. You put the beer in the coconut and throw the can away.
Homer!
You throw the can away.
I said Homer!
You throw the can away.
Oh yeah, I'm still drinking. If I saw a difference because my headset did. I can't think of the YouTube-friendly version saying this, but it did not do its job.
All right, I'm skipping the one part of the bacteria here. It's too early for that stupidity. But this is kind of stupid. I can't believe I have to.
That's what it sounded like. I'm also kind of breaking this up because I don't want to break certain rules that are not funny to break. So he's mentioning one part bacteria. I'll bring that up later. I promise.
Problem with meiosis or sexual reproduction is that any individual, let's say a male, is only contributing half of their DNA to the next generation. The female produces the other half. Every individual is not giving 100% of their DNA, only 50% of their DNA.
Inner peace. Inner peace. Would whoever is making that flapping sound quiet down?
In contrast, a bacterium is giving their entire genome, all of their DNA, all of their genetic material is being passed on to the next generation.
I think he's f***ing dumb.
But this is so stupid. I really didn't take much biology classes until college, and this is basically freshman level stuff that we're talking about. Yes, you get all your genetic information from your genetic parents. 50% plus 50% equals 100%. I can't believe I have to say that. And there's advantages and disadvantages between sexual and asexual reproduction. And it really depends upon basically how the species evolved to survive. Some animals like the Daphnia, also known as the water flea, really do both. The advantage of asexual reproduction is it's faster. Sober me, correct the drunk me if I'm wrong, but yeah, drunk me is right. Daphne is potentially born pregnant. And they get, when times get rough, and this is where sexual reproduction is an advantage, is there's a higher genetic diversity because of meiosis. So when the Daphnia encounters a time when times get rough, at least some of their offspring survive. Which sounds really harsh because humans love their offspring. So sexual reproduction tends to be more genetically diverse unless there's an event which causes a genetic bottleneck. But that genetic bottleneck could even happen because there's enough of a diversity to allow that to happen and the species to survive. And a little bit of distraction, and the Silver Me wrote this, by the way, this part. For the record, I want to point out that bacteria, yeah, they asexually reproduce, but they also have a little bit of an advantage over that because they can do what is called laterally transfer their genetic information. So basically, there's a piece of genetic information, not DNA. Bacteria is like pre-DNA, if you will. They can actually take that chunk of information and give it to a friend of theirs. And their friend will actually like go, hey, this is good information. I'm going to use it. Thank you. And they both do better as a result.
In contrast, a bacterium that uses mitosis to reproduce is...
Oh yeah, this is the part that I skipped. Big man uses big words without using stupid, user-friendly, tubes of view-friendly dictionary. Yeah, look at me! I can use big words to pretend I'm the smart. If you're a biology major or know anything about biology, especially the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, you know what I'm talking about. Congratulations. You're smarter than me after I graduated high school. Bacteria do not mitosis. That's a eukaryotic thing. Bacteria are prokaryotic cells. When it comes to biology, it's all shades of gray. There's no black and white. So bacteria, for the most part, binary fission. Eukaryotic cells, which includes your cells if you're a human, have organelles. Organelles are basically a cell's version of organs. They're enclosed bits that have jobs. One example is the lysosome, which breaks down proteins. The nucleus is another organelle which actually holds DNA. Yeah, it's a little bit of difference between the cell types. Bacteria don't have to worry about a lot of that stuff because when you start enclosing stuff, you're complicating things.
Your Honor, my client pleads oopsie daisy.
But it does more than that, because one of the things that the conventional model doesn't come to grips with is that the fossils, many of the fossils are marine creatures, and they're found buried up on the continents. And so you've got to have a mechanism from taking creatures from the ocean floor and burying them up on the continents in rock layers.
Oh, this. Hold on. I'm going to pause the recording for this one. Okay, I feel better. I have another one of these. In case you're wondering what this is, it's a beer that actually opened up earlier because recording reasons. Yeah. But yes, and not only no, but you dumb no. Using North America as an example, there was a western interior seaway during the Cretaceous. So basically, between the Appalachians and the Rockies was a gigantic seaway. It was a little bit more north than that. I should have an example on the screen of the map. But a few things that cause this. Keep in mind, I'm just focusing on one area because if I went way too hard at this,
Phrasing.
this video would easily the genetics section alone would last for like 3-4 hours. And this is geology. This is a little bit different. So a few things are going on during the Cretaceous during this time. Water levels were higher due to an overall climate being hotter. I'm hearing conspiracy theory with sea levels not rising due to climate change, global warming. That's dumb because that's not including the water that is on land right now. If you take all the water that's on land right now, the glaciers, put into the oceans, that's actually significant. But the other factor for that is the plate tectonics. It's called, well, in our case with the Rockies, it's called, and I'm probably mispronouncing it, but Lardame orogeny. Lemonade, I forget offhand. Editing me, explain this, please. Okay, so orogeny is a process, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is the process which a section of the Earth's crust is folded and deformed by lateral compression to form a mountain range. And in this case, it also kind of pushes the landmass down a little bit. I'll explain that later. I also had to fact check myself because once again, drunk me knew something that sober me did not know, or just knew off the top of his head. I don't understand how that happens. Basically what happened, and this should be on the screen right now or at the TV, is when this was happening, it actually warped the North American plate so that the middle of the continent was actually warped downward. Well, when you do that with the higher sea levels, you're allowing a huge sea to show. A huge sea is going to show up. Yeah, it's not going to be as deep as like oceans, but it's a large, shallow sea. And I need to make one more point. There are 3 types of rock: igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary. And I just realized that I've not, unless I animate them, it probably not, but I don't have fingers. Fossils are not found in igneous rock, for it's a rock juice that comes out of the ground. Fossils are destroyed by the heat and pressure that turns other rocks, like sedimentary and igneous rock, into metamorphic rock. Sedimentary rock is like sand and dirt that solidifies and becomes rock, like sandstone. That's where fossils are found. So you put too much heat and pressure, you're actually destroying any fossils that are right there.
And the catastrophic plate tectonics model helps us to understand this, because you bring up this molten material, okay? Warm material is actually less dense because it expands. So if you have it happen rapidly, what's going to happen? You're going to produce all this new ocean floor very rapidly. It's going to be hot and warm, and it's going to take a while to cool, but it's going to expand. So if it expands, what's it going to do? It's going to push up the sea level. So the water is actually going to start to flood onto the continents. Add to that the earthquakes generated by the earth movements, and you're going to have tsunamis of a scale that makes the, the Japanese or the Sumatran tsunamis that we've seen in recent decades look very small. Yeah. So you can have surges of water moving from the ocean towards the continents very rapidly, hundreds of feet high. As it gets to shallower water, it's going to pick up the marine creatures, and it's going to scour the ocean bottom, and it's going to carry that material up onto the continents. So immediately we have a mechanism for the rainfall, for surges of sedimentation where the sea level rises, that's going to go right across the continents and blanket the continents with these sedimentary rock layers.
Yeah, I thought about leaving this off, but it really felt dishonest. Like, drunk me even feels like this is dumb. Also, I wanted to give you a headache. For that, you are very welcome. Forget how much energy that needs to be released for this. Forget the mass extinctions that would result in throwing fossils from the ocean to, let's say, Wisconsin or Illinois. But at least the United States, again, with the North American reference. Forget the question where a lot of this material come from. But the idiot does have a point. You gotta give credit where credit's due. The continental crust, like the North American crust, the India crust, the Eurasia crust, is actually lighter than the oceanic crust. I can't think of any offhand, but like when you look at the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, that crust is actually heavier than the continental crust. That's why continental crust is continental and oceanic crust is oceanic. And there, again, I'm great with terms and stuff and things. But that's not because of the heat. The heat references to get oceanic crust to be lighter than continental crust would turn it, at the very least, metamorphic. Okay, once again, I have not scripted an ending. Did not do the last 2,000 videos. And, like, heck, I'm not going to start doing it now. If you like what you saw, hit the like, subscribe, and all that. Leave me a comment. My resources is below if you want to continue reading. If you have an idea of a series video that a full-length video where I should debunk, let me know. Angrier the person, the better, because reasons. It's entertaining, mostly, for me. And yeah, my planet needs me. I'm gonna let you go.
Don't worry, Leela. Soon we'll be able to look back on this and laugh. Ha 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 ha!